Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nikita. Welcome to the Cryptos channel. And in today's topic is Polygon. We want to help you explore Polygon as from the side of an active ecosystem user, so also from the developer side. So for this, we've got a special guest here today, Arjun Kalsy, the Vice President of Polygon Growth. Arjun, thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much for taking your time. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you a lot. Greetings. I guess we could just dive straight into the topic, and probably the best would be to start with more specific questions about Polygon, the ecosystem as it is, and then navigate to the questions that the users or the viewers of the channel were asking us. So as an intro, maybe you could explain to the people not so familiar with Polygon, what is the Polygon technology itself and what are the key elements in the ecosystem?
Sure thing, sure thing. So Polygon is an Ethereum scalability aggregator. So if I were to break the terms down, which is scalability, aggregator, and Ethereum. So essentially what Polygon, when we started in 2017, the objective of Polygon as a company is to help bring scalability to the Ethereum ecosystem. Right. So the Ethereum blockchain, while having huge amount of traction, very decentralized, and sort of in our opinion is possibly the best ecosystem out there. It does have some scalability problems. It's slow, transactions tend to be expensive, and our goal is to sort of be able to bring scalability to this blockchain, to the Ethereum blockchain infrastructure, so that we can basically prime Ethereum for mass adoption. So this is essentially what Polygon aims to do, and how we aim to do it is by becoming a scalability aggregator. Now, what does that mean? So if you look at how blockchain technology is evolving now, and if you look at what's going to happen in the future, ultimately the future, even in terms of scalability, will be a multi-chain ecosystem, right? So we expect optimistic rollups, ZK rollups, standalone chains, our public chain, all of those to exist parallelly, and then of course and then developers might choose different types of chains depending on the kind of application they want to build, right? And we aim to basically provide the maximum amount of flexibility to the developer to build whatever he or she chooses. So all the different types of technologies you need for scaling, like rollups, the different types of rollups, even within ZK rollups, there are some different types. We are also building a data availability solution. So essentially, we want to build this one ecosystem where you can find every type of blockchain scalability solution. And this entire ecosystem is governed by one token, right? So when a developer wants to build something, even which is cross-chain, you don't have to struggle with token economics, like 5, 6 different types of tokens, different token economics. It's one token. So this just makes building a multi-chain kind of ecosystem easier. It becomes easier to develop for, it becomes easier for the user. All the bridging is there. And if we are able to basically build this, then we can truly build like the future of scalability. And so this is kind of what we are aiming to do at Polygon. And I would dare say we've been quite successful. We have, as of today, over 11,000 applications live on our public chain. We have a huge developer ecosystem. All your tier one DeFi apps, whether it is Aave, Curve, Balancer, Uniswap, SushiSwap, or whether it is your tier one NFT applications like OpenSea, Lazy.com, Autograph, and whether it's your even all your gaming and metaverse companies like Decentraland, Decentral Games, Vulcanverse, Avagochi, all the metaverses, Sandbox, Somnium Space, all of them are live on Polygon. So we managed to build like a pretty strong ecosystem. So yeah, this is just a quick brief about Polygon.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. So it basically means that depending on the needs that a developer has, maybe it's a higher security for a DApp, maybe if it's got to do something with investment or crowdfunding, or maybe if it's a game where you need faster transactions but a little lower security, you can basically choose the layer of Polygon you can build on and basically use it for your benefits.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay, and for the end user, he doesn't even notice the different changes where the application was built on. That's basically what you mean, probably by one token, right?
100%, right. So for the end user, at the end of the day, in my opinion, the best application, how you know that you've created the best application of blockchain is when the blockchain technology or the chain itself is completely obfuscated from the user. Right. It's like, so for example, when you use WhatsApp, like you ask like which database is WhatsApp using, and nobody cares. Like it just works.
Yeah.
And similarly, we want blockchain technology to be the same way. Like it just works. Like the user doesn't have to bother what chain, what bridging, nothing. It's just like intuitive. And if we can do that, that's when you will get mass adoption of blockchain technology. So yeah.
Awesome. And following up this question, there are probably some projects alike on the market, like Polygon, but as have in the past few months and probably weeks, was diving deeper into Polygon. This scale of adoption is not present in probably any of the other blockchains, but still, what does differentiate Polygon from probably ecosystems alike here on the Web3? What is it better with?
Sure, definitely. So I think in terms of, so there are like, when you look at blockchain scalability, right, there are two approaches. Like if you look at the market, right, there are two distinct approaches, right? So one is your layer one blockchain approach. So you have Ethereum, and there are some people who feel like, there are some teams who feel that, maybe Ethereum at like, the technology or the way Ethereum is designed is flawed, and we can build something maybe different, right? So if you look at Polkadot, Solana, Phantom, Avalanche, like all of these are different layer one blockchains, like who are trying to basically, you could say, compete with Ethereum, or feel that they can build like a better maybe infrastructure, or something like that, right? So that's your layer one blockchains. And then you have layer two blockchains, right, which are basically following the approach that Ethereum already is like a great ecosystem, and we just need to basically solve the problems of scalability. And if we can do that, then you have solved. And within layer two, you have your Optimism, Arbitrum, Starkware, and of course you have Polygon. So these are the different types of ecosystems. Now, I think so if I were to say the difference between, let's say, Polygon and other layer one blockchains, right, like Polkadot, Solana, Avalanche, all of these guys, I think the distinct advantage which we have is that we are basically built using tried and tested Ethereum technology, right? So Ethereum has been around for 8+ years. It has been rock solid through its, it's gone through its ups and downs. Forks have happened which have improved the technology. So it is something which we know works really well, and we know works well at scale, right? If you were to compare this with some of the other layer one blockchains, like, they faced several outages. Some of them are extremely centralized, like for example, let's say Phantom, and whenever you're trying to build any kind of, like, let's say, new technology, you're bound to face some problems. So we've seen, like, for example, Solana has faced multiple downtimes and security issues, and which is normal. Like, if you're trying to build something completely new, untried, untested, it will be several years before you can get it exactly right when you're trying to build for global scale. So that way, I feel that, Polygon as a chain, in spite of the huge adoption which we have never suffered an outage. Like, our chain has never stopped working. And there have been times when the chain has been congested because of the huge volume, but, like, we never crashed. And so this is that, I would say, from a stability perspective, Polygon is great, which is why tier one apps, with huge user bases, want to deploy on Polygon. Like, this is stable infrastructure. And compared to the other layer two blockchains, I think one of the important things we've done to make it easy for users and developers is stick to EVM, right? So what we feel is that even if the future is multi-chain, if all the chains use the same operating system, which is Ethereum virtual machine, then interoperability becomes easy. And more importantly, it becomes easy for the developer to develop for. It becomes intuitive for the user, because the user is hopping ecosystems, but is seeing the same kind of environment, right? Similarly to how Java works, where as long as you have Java virtual machine, you can run Java code in any device, whether it's phone, laptop, server, whatever have you. So if you look at, for example, let's say Starkware, right? So Starkware has got, top tier team and very, very smart, intelligent researchers. But the approach they have chosen is to create a completely new smart contracting language, right? And it's completely, so what you have to do is you have to then reinvent the wheel. All the smart contracts you have to write all over again. Like, all the tooling has to be built all over again, all the wallets, etc. In Polygon, you don't have that problem, right? We are EVM compatible. Anything which works on Ethereum works on Polygon. You can quite literally Control C and Control P, like copy paste the smart contracts, and they just work. And so it's super easy for developers. Your time to market, the amount of money you need to spend to develop and to bring any idea to the public is phenomenally lesser, right? And that's what I feel is important for, the ecosystem to move forward, where you have to solve this problem of difficulty within blockchain, which already is difficult. Like, it's difficult to understand, imagine, for the average person. You need to remove this difficulty, and and only then can you really build something huge, something which even school children can, build for. Like, we've seen several, 12, 13-year-old developers building amazing applications on Polygon. It's amazing. So that's how, we feel that the ecosystem of the future has to be. That's why I feel our approach towards problem solving for mass adoption is, I feel, better than possibly some of the other approaches out there.
So it's basically a lower entry limit for the people already familiar to Ethereum, the EVM, to basically just
Yes.
apply on Polygon, as you said, copy paste their smart contracts. And talking about Ethereum, how do you feel if Ethereum 2.0 is finally coming out sometime? How might it impact Polygon? Will it be just better for the Polygon ecosystem, or is it like, yeah?
I feel that it is going to be better for us because we feel that the way we are building our technology is that we feel that Ethereum is excellent as a final settlement layer, right? So if you were to imagine Ethereum like a computer, like imagine Ethereum like a world computer, right, which has processing and memory. The current problem with Ethereum is that you are confined to the processing and the memory which is available within Ethereum. Right. So what are people trying to do? They're trying to build rollups, which is where you take processing outside of Ethereum, you do the processing elsewhere, and you put the proof on Ethereum. And then what we are also building one step ahead is data availability. So the data also you can take outside of Ethereum. Processing also you take outside Ethereum. You do the processing and you keep the processing and data outside of Ethereum so that you can scale it infinitely. And then Ethereum, you just put the proofs there on Ethereum, which then anybody on Ethereum can independently verify such proofs. So the point is that Ethereum excels as a final settlement layer, right? And what we feel is that if the final settlement layer or the base layer becomes higher performance, then automatically all the layers on top will be even it will have even better performance, right? And also, like, that is extremely important because, like, if you start doing some of the math, right, like I'll give an example, right? So I'll just take out my calculator right now. So and this is like, you can just do this like right now with me if you'd like. So the Ethereum 2.0 best case scenario is going to be like what Vitalik described is 100,000 transactions per second.
Mm-hmm.
Right now you multiply that by 86,400, which is the number of seconds in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it theoretically gives you what is the maximum number of transactions you can do in a day, correct? So 100,000 into 86,400. Now you divide that by 10 million, right? And the number you get is 864. That means if 10
Yeah.
million people start using blockchain technology, you can only do 864 transactions in a day. And this is for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not counting IoT devices and all the other things you should be writing. If you make that number 100 million, you can only do 86 transactions a day.
Per
Right.
person then.
Right. So,
Mm-hmm.
so if you just look at the math, you realize that while 100,000 TPS is great, it's not the scale. It's not enough. Like, this is not for mass adoption. Android, for example, just in terms of human users, has over 1 billion users. Right. So when you have to design for Android scale, like 100,000 TPS is not enough. You need to be far more scalable than that. Which is why we feel that if the base layer becomes high performance, then the layer on top will be even like next level performance. And what that means is then blockchain technology can become like, as performant as Web2 technology.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is going to be truly amazing. This is going to be world changing. So that's why we feel that, ETH 2.0 is an amazing thing for layer 2 blockchains.
We were talking to developer literally 2 days ago. He's building a lot in Polygon. He's making basically an automated DAO system where you can just build your own DAO like a constructor. And we
Oh,
also were
wow.
raising the questions. Yeah, it's XDAO it's called. And actually, what you said, what he said, these are actually really common things. So basically what you were trying to say, if the core becomes more advanced, it can process more transactions, then all the side chains and everything built on the core will be just also more advanced, but there will be still need on side chains for more transactions later.
100% right. Because when you're building for hundreds of millions and billions of users, you need like, layer 2 will always be there because the vast majority of transactions will be your like $1 or less than $1 transactions or $5 transactions. Typically it's stuff you do on a daily basis. Like it's a $500 million transaction or even $1 million transaction is pretty rare, right? If you look at it. So that's why we feel that layer 2 is the answer for mass scalability because the majority of the transactions, all the gaming, all of the social media stuff you do, like this all stuff is best done on layer 2. And layer 1, which is like Ethereum, is great if you want to do, let's say, a multi-million-dollar transaction where even paying $10,000 in gas fees may not matter. So that's like, how I look at it. Yeah.
And you also have two awesome, like actually new technologies. That's ZKVerse and Plonky 2, the world's fastest ZK scaling technology right now for the moment. What does it actually mean to the end user? What are its benefits?
Definitely. So this is very interesting, right? And I wish, like we are trying to basically also develop content which explains this better, but let me give you like in a nutshell, right? So if you want to improve, okay, I'll just take a minute to even explain how rollups work. So to make it really easy to understand,
Yep.
right? So like I said, Ethereum is a computer. You got memory and you have processing, just like a computer, right? What is memory? Memory is the blockchain, right? Because every time you do a smart contract, you either read from the blockchain or you write to the blockchain, right? So you have the blockchain, which is memory, and you have processing, which is the ability to execute smart contracts, right? So memory and processing. The problem is then you are limited by the amount of memory and processing there exists within Ethereum. So what did you do in Rollup? You took the processing outside, right? So you said, okay, we'll create a separate blockchain, which is great at processing transactions like a ZK Rollup. And we will do all the transaction processing there. Once the processing is done, we will take the proof, we will put the proof back on Ethereum, and we will create something called a rollup. And a rollup is basically just enough data for you to prove the transaction, to basically recreate the transaction. So you put the rollup also on Ethereum. Now anybody on Ethereum can independently verify the proof because the data is also there, and the proof is also there. And you have to imagine like what a rollup is. Like imagine like a 6-page essay, right? You imagine you have a 6-page essay. Rollup is a gist of the essay, like 2 paragraphs which explains what is there in the 6 pages. You don't need all the details to understand the essay. You just need the gist. So that's like what a rollup is. So you put the proof, you put the rollup back. Anybody on Ethereum can recreate the proof, just like it. So it becomes like an Ethereum transaction, because in Ethereum you can independently verify any sort of proof or transaction. So this is a, like, if you think about it, rollup is a really tactical, like smart hack, right? When you got this computer which has got problems, so you build another computer which is like super fast, and then you just keep putting the proof and enough data to recreate the proof back on Ethereum. Now, so basically, if you think about it, the arms race, or rather the how you improve this technology, is number one, that proof should be really small, right? And the ROS, which you're putting back on Ethereum, because you're putting data on Ethereum, there's a cost associated with it. So the proof has to be really optimized. Secondly, the proof should be generated very quickly, right? So the way you create the proof has to be great, has to be really optimized. Secondly, that roll up also, which you're putting back on Ethereum, again, you're putting data on Ethereum, there's a cost. You need to optimize that roll up also, right? So if you look at the small different parts in between, the proof has to be really small. You have to be able to generate the proof really quickly, and the roll up also has to be like really optimized. So Plonky 2 basically has the ability to, number one, create proofs in sub-second time, right? So inside of a second, you can take 1 million transactions and you can create a proof. Unprecedented, like this has never been like done before, right? The best part, you can do it on your Mac. You can do it on your home computer. So there is not a need for some specialized expensive hardware, commodity hardware. You can create these proofs. Secondly, it is also horizontally scalable. So what does that mean? So like, for example, let's say you and me are like, let's say I create a proof, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say there are 5 million transactions. You take 1 million transactions, you create a proof. I take 1 million transactions, I create a proof, and then your proof can recursively be added to my proof to create a new proof, right? So because we can take a huge number of transactions, split that work into multiple computers, each of whom can create the proof, and then we can combine all those proofs. Basically means it's horizontally scalable. What that means is, as long as there are huge number of computers within the network, you can take a huge number of transactions and you can split that work between every computer. Inside of 1 second, the proof is generated. Then you can recreate recursively, keep adding up the proofs. So what that means is, if you have 100 computers, you can split the work in 100. If you have 1,000, you can split the work in 1,000. If you have 100,000, you can split the work into 100,000 computers, and then the proof generation is even faster because you're doing less proofs, right? So what that means is, as your network becomes bigger and bigger, your ability to create proofs becomes exponentially faster, right? Now, of course, Plonky 2 is still being optimized, and we are trying to even reduce the requirements to create the proof even further. In fact, what would be the next generation idea would be to that you should be able to create recursive proofs on this. And then you can imagine, now tell me how many mobile phones are there in the world who have internet connection. Imagine each one of them is able to create a proof. You've got scalability like you cannot even imagine in this kind of a system, right? So this would, in our opinion, is the next generation roll up, right? Now, let's make this even more awesome, right? So this sounds amazing, like huge scalability. Let's take it one step further. Let's go back to the computer, right? So computer has memory, computer has processing. We have created a very, very powerful processing engine. which is horizontally scalable, proof and all is like, so, but the memory is still here, right? The memory is still inside that box of Ethereum. How do you improve that? So what you do is you've taken processing outside memory, you've taken processing outside Ethereum, you take memory also outside of Ethereum. And this is what is data availability, or what we call Polygon avail. Data availability is also like a blockchain or a data structure, but the data availability blockchain does not do transaction processing. It has only one job: to ensure perfect ordering of data so that there can never be any cheating, right? You maintain the data in perfect order. So basically now you got Ethereum, you've got all the data which is being put, like, which is all the data is in perfect order. You have a super powerful processing engine. You take the data, do the processing on it, and on Ethereum you just put the proof, and anybody on Ethereum can check the data availability chain and recreate the proof. So now you've taken away the problem of memory also. So now you have unprecedented processing. You have very, very powerful data structure for memory, in which you cannot cheat. So this memory, like this blockchain data availability uses like a ZK primitive, like Kate polynomial commitments, to ensure perfect ordering of data. So now you are basically not confined by Ethereum at all. You have taken memory outside, you've taken processing outside, and all you are doing is you are creating proofs like really quickly and putting the proofs on Ethereum. And if Ethereum is 100,000 TPS, you can put so many more proofs, right? So imagine if I could take 1 million transactions, create one proof, put that on on Ethereum, which is 100,000 TPS. So that's 100,000 into million transactions. It's like insane scalability. So this is what we are building. Basically, what we call internally like a mic drop moment in scalability. Like this is solved. Like scalability is done.
Great.
So
Awesome.
This is what we are looking to do. Sorry, very long explanation, but
yeah. To summarize it up, basically for the end user, it means they can do like tons of millions transactions in a very short period of time. Then all the transactions, like maybe if oversimplified in the form of a Merkle tree, are put down into a single hash, and then they're put onto Ethereum for higher security.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. And also in terms in security, Polygon is a proof of stake network, and the staking right now is happening on Ethereum. And as I see it, it's just for higher security issues again. Do you have any plans on migrating the staking to the Polygon blockchain itself, or do you want to leave it on Ethereum?
No, so we are contemplating that. We are planning to roll out V3, like version 3 updates to our Polygon proof of stake chain to make it even higher performance. And so this is like a bit of a tough, question, like, because, like we got about close to what, $4.5 or $5 billion, like worth of Matic staked on a network right now. If you're going to take $5 billion, do you want to keep that on Ethereum or do you want to keep that on Polygon, like from a security perspective? So it's a tough question. And if you want to keep it on Polygon, then you need to ensure that you have maybe your validator setup or whatever you have is sort of like, secure enough for that. So it is something we are testing and trying to figure out if we could do that staking on Polygon itself, and that research is still ongoing. There's another option where you do something what Lido is doing, right, which is liquid staking, that you stake on Ethereum, but then in return for your stake, you get like ST Matic, which is staked Matic. And then you can use that within the Polygon ecosystem for like DeFi. So there's another option. So you don't necessarily have to move the staking. You can just use liquid staking. So that's like kind of what we're trying to really figure out what would be the best way. Yeah.
So basically either security or the cheaper transactions right now for the staking.
Basically, yeah. So so by using liquid staking, where you can keep the staking on Ethereum but get like equivalent stake tokens on Matic, you could actually theoretically solve the problem which users are facing, right? That your staking, like your staked amount of Matic is stuck and you cannot like make more money off it or use it in any other DeFi. So I think if you could solve it, then I think you can keep the staking still on Ethereum and not have to move it to Polygon and achieve the same thing which the user wants at the end of the day. So yeah.
And you also have a part of the company called Polygon Studios. Could we maybe dive a little more into that? What are its big future plans actually? What are they doing right now?
Oh, sure, definitely. So with Polygon Studios, what we wanted to build an engine for NFT and gaming. So what we realized is that NFT and gaming is like its own different kind of subculture, right? So it's got a very different kind of audience compared to DeFi audience, which is very different. right? So and what we like realized is that because the audience itself is different, and the way the business is run is also different, where there is an emphasis on intellectual property, there's an emphasis on certain other aspects. We felt that having a business unit which focuses just on that is extremely important. Also, gaming and entertainment is also in a different sense also very important, because gaming and entertainment has the potential to bring hundreds of millions of users into blockchain. Like, these were people who would typically not be blockchain users, but you can get them into blockchain using concepts like play to earn. You can do different NFT kinds of economies you can build. So which is why we felt that, like, this is a very strategic area. It's got very unique requirements. So I think what we should do is we should have a business unit which just caters to that. And that's why we created Polygon Studios. It has its own fund. And then now YouTube's head of gaming, Ryan Watt, has now joined us to sort of build out Polygon Studios. I think every company in the world will want to figure out some way to leverage NFTs, regardless of what you're doing. So that's why I feel that it's like, it's going to be a very, very strategic business unit within Polygon. And yeah, so that's like the thought behind Polygon Studios.
So you believe that Metaverse's play to earn does have a big future, and that a lot of projects could run potentially in the future also on Polygon, like really good gaming projects, maybe also.
100%
Actually,
right. So,
yeah.
so for me, like, what is a metaverse at the end of the day? If I were to really distill it down, is basically a three-dimensional social network, right? So also typically today social networks are two-dimensional, like Instagram and Facebook, etc. So which allow us to stay connected, but beyond that, it does not allow us to have shared experiences, right? Which is why we like to meet our friends in real life. So you have a shared experience. The metaverse is trying to basically take that one step further, where you're trying to bring in a shared experience in a world which is in three dimensions, and that world is completely customizable, right? So this is like, in a very short way of thinking about what is a metaverse. The second most important thing to understand about social networks is that why Facebook was very successful is because Facebook is not just a social network, it's also a platform, right? What makes Facebook amazing is that, or Meta, what we call it today, amazing, is that you had Zynga games, you had like so many different applications. Like, you could build on top of the social network, you could build new applications for engagement of the users. Similarly, metaverses are a platform. So the real correct way of thinking about a metaverse from a business perspective and a tech perspective is three-dimensional social network platform. And only those metaverses will be successful who are able to become very strong platforms which allow others to build on the metaverse, whether it is buildings, experiences, whatever have you, right? So that kind of metaverse is what is going to be the metaverse of the future. So that's why we feel that as you have your huge social network which you have today, both like personal also, which is on let's say your Instagram and Facebook side, and to professional, which is your LinkedIn and like those kind of social networks. When all of these transition into the 3D world, like you will have millions and millions of people using blockchain technology without even realizing it. So this is why I feel that this is a very strategic area. And the stronger the platform is, like the more the success of that metaverse. And because you have hundreds and millions of users, you need to build it on infrastructure which has that level of scalability. So that's why we feel that we are uniquely positioned to help a metaverse succeed. Yeah.
And to succeed in the metaverse, you obviously first of all need developers, external developers who are going to build this. And maybe the second part of the interview we can focus on this, because to everyone we're talking to, is everything they need the most right now is basically devs, because there are just so few of them. And how is maybe Polygon pattern?
I would say that I would say again, EVM compatibility just makes it easy. So if you're an Ethereum developer, you're automatically a Polygon developer. And luckily, Ethereum has done an amazing job on developer education. There is so much content out there. Now, if you actually check out on YouTube, there is so much content for Polygon as well, of how to mint NFTs, how to build smart contracts. So frankly, you can do any course. You can do a Polygon course, you can do an Ethereum course, and you're ready to go. So that's why I feel that from a developer adoption perspective, like, Polygon is just very optimized. And if you look at even Solidity as a programming language, like, it's very similar to JavaScript. So it's not like super complex. Like, of course, you can get very deep into it, and, and then, things may become, but for somebody to start learning Solidity and start, designing basic smart contracts, it's not a very difficult, let's say, proposition compared to maybe learning Rust or some other kind of programming language, which is similar to C++, which has a steep learning curve. So that's why I feel that, like, for all intents and purposes, Polygon has like a greater chance at adoption. And if you were to like even see similarities with what has happened in Web 2, like why Android was very popular is because the code base was very similar to Java. Like any Java developer could build Android apps. And that's why people were able to pick up Android so easily. Right. So we want to follow like a similar playbook where whatever code base, it should be like very familiar to the user and easy to work with.
Also, in terms of developers, we feel like it's still something close and unimaginable to the most people. And what we're also trying to do is we're launching like literally next or in a week a short YouTube video series where we will actually with a really experienced developer will show how to build your own token. We'll be using Polygon platform for this as well.
Oh, that's
How
great.
to maybe make your own smart contract DAOs and then head over to some more complex things in order to bring
Oh,
this to
that'll be
masses.
amazing.
Yeah.
That'll be
So
amazing. Also.
it's also because development is really interesting for me as well. I'm not a developer, but the concept is so this is what we're really
Oh,
looking forward
definitely.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also have like so many grant programs. We have a Polygon ecosystem DAO where you can go and propose for a grant and get funding for your idea. So I think there's a lot of support for developers as well. So many hackathons which we do, like the ETH Global Hackathon, where I think we had a record number of participants. I think 1,700 like projects or something like that, a crazy number. So we do like there's a lot of like there's a very strong developer support ecosystem. So if anybody needs support, etc., like Polygon is there to support developers. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, yeah, exactly about the support programs. Could you maybe tell us something more about the grants there on Polygon, maybe media support or marketing supports?
No, sure,
What are
definitely. So I think, yeah, so I think that's a great question because there is so much which goes into making an app successful, right? It's not just a development aspect. You need marketing, you need also support sometimes. So at Polygon, we've done a couple of different things, right? So one is we have developer grants. So today, if you want to get a grant, there's a DAO, you can go and be a part of that DAO. You can, it's a great place to, market your product as well, get funding. So we've tried to decentralize, the development of our ecosystem versus, doing something like that. Secondly, even at Polygon, if you're looking to build something interesting, like Polygon Studios also gives out grants for NFT projects. We also give out other grants. So we've got several grant programs. We've also tied up with several incubators and accelerators. So, so for example, Outlier Ventures runs an incubator. So there's several incubators and accelerators like we can work with, where developers can sort of get funding for their projects. Polygon Studios also does like investments into some NFT gaming projects. We've started doing that at a very small level. So we are trying to build like and also like outside of the grants, we also provide marketing support. Like we've got a big community, and if you're an app launching on Polygon, we can help you with announcements and things like that to help you get traction. So and also beyond this, like I said, right, so let's say you launch an app, you get some traction, you are successful, now you're looking to get investors. Like we have a big investor community as well. Recently we've raised some funding, and our investor community has become even larger. So we can position you within the investor community and help you get some help there. So in all the different things a project needs to become successful, like we have created the structures to help with that. So I feel that it's a great place to, yeah, Polygon's a great place to be a developer. Yeah.
Yeah. And also for the viewers who are maybe building the project on Polygon right now, and the video description under this video, we will leave the official links of Polygon, of the English announcement group and the chat, and also for the local Russian one. So if you're whatever language you're more comfortable with chatting, just you can write into the groups, and we'll definitely get in touch with you and help you solve the issues if there are some. And yeah. Also, another question, considering developers, maybe from your perspective, if someone is building right now on Web2 developments, what is the best way for him to migrate onto the Web3 development? What steps should the person take?
So I think one of the number one steps would definitely be, so there are two things which a Web2 developer needs to do, right? So I also come from a developer background. So I myself am a software engineer. I've done a fair amount of coding, and it's also interesting that like why Polygon is so pro developer is because all the founders I come from development backgrounds. Like I had business, I also come from a developer background. So it's something we understand well. Now, when I was a Web2 developer, there were two things which you need to figure out, right? So number one is you need to figure out how blockchain works, right? So blockchain is different from Web2, where the amount of compute and memory you have is something you need to optimize for, right? And also blockchain is useful in certain situations, and in certain cases, you should not use blockchain. So number one is to understand or read about blockchain basics and to really internalize the concept. of where and why you should use blockchain and when you should not. So that's like very important to start understanding. So this is something you can pick up from several YouTube videos, read about Ethereum. There's several books. You can, understand like, how smart contracting works, what are the different calls, etc. The second thing is on the tech stack, there are many tutorials. There is a tutorial by Eat the Blocks. There's a tutorial by Figment. There are many tutorials on Polygon. You guys are also planning to come up with your own. So I think the second thing would be to just dive right into it. Maybe just open Remix ID, which you can open in your browser, run some smart contracts, get used to the nuts and bolts like RPC URLs and things like that, and just dive into it. Like, I mean, if school kids and college students are able to build multi-million-dollar apps, then anybody can do it. So it's not that complex. I think it's just a matter of putting in maybe 1 or 2 weeks worth of effort, and you'll be surprised with the kind of output you can generate. And generally the Web3 community is very supportive. Like, one thing I've noticed compared to Web2, because the technology is open source, right? So if, for example, you're trying to figure out how to write NFT contracts, you can go to Open Zeppelin and just find a contract. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you want to figure out how Uniswap works and you want to build something better, you can just go and see the code and fork Uniswap and create something better. So because the code in Web3 is open source, the iterative development and iterative innovation, it happens at a much, much faster pace than in Web2, where the code is closed source. So that's why I feel that, like, picking up Web3 is that way easier, because you can just go to Etherscan and you can just see the code and learn from that. So yeah.
So basically, just learn how blockchain works and then just start doing, and don't overthink too much. That's the best way.
Absolutely, don't overthink, right? And anytime you want to know how Aave works, just go see the code. The code is available; it's free. So yeah.
And also, regarding, as you said a few questions before, the support of different dApps that are like building on Polygon right now, are there any specific dApp categories you're looking forward the most to? So, or are you welcoming like everybody equally?
I mean, for us, like, we welcome everybody. I mean, the advantage is that Polygon is like the kind of, let's say, infrastructure on which you can build anything, right? Whether it's DeFi, gaming, DAO, etc. Like, so we welcome all apps. I do feel that, if you look at the blockchain ecosystem in general, I think a lot of work can be done around tooling. So tooling to help create DAOs, like, or help manage DAOs, tooling to help metaverses and building on metaverses, tooling for NFTs, even tooling for DeFi. I think a lot of the tooling parts are still not very strong. So I would love to see, like, some innovation there. And I think also from the DAO perspective, the DAO is a very, very interesting like concept, and what we are also seeing now that many DAOs have been implemented is some of the challenges as well. Like, for example, it's easy to create the DAO, but then you have to solve for engagement. You need to manage your treasury, DAO operations. You need to have people, and people are working across time zones in DAO. So how do you manage something like that? So it's I think DAOs are a very interesting space for me, and how to properly, effectively manage a DAO is something which I'm really trying to study and understand. Because decentralized autonomous organizations are the future. Ultimately, private ownership is going to give way to public ownership and public goods. So if you can like study today and understand how the system might work, then it might be very, very useful later on when you start building your own ecosystems. So yeah.
Thank you. We have a few more questions left from the Polygon Russia group. They were the people asking the questions what are interesting for them the most. There are several ones we've noted for us. And first of them is Sequoia Capital has invested $450 million recently into Polygon. And that's like really amazing, truly. And how are you planning to use all this money? So what should be developed primarily?
Sure, definitely. So Sequoia has led the investment round, but apart from Sequoia, you also have SoftBank, you have Brevan Howard, like you have many top tier funds involved in a fundraise. And for us, like the reason we did this were two reasons, right? So number one reason was to expand the ecosystem. So if you notice the fund mix, like, most of the funds are Web2 funds, like primarily, right? And they're not necessarily Web3 funds. So the reason we went with that is because if you look at what's happening in the world right now, with companies like Facebook becoming Meta and getting into the metaverse, like we are seeing now the huge migration happen of Web2 companies now transitioning to Web3 companies, right? And as this migration continues, like this is going to be the world's biggest, let's say, opportunity, as one might say, for when companies are making this transition, and we wanted to sort of really gear ourselves up for this transition, which is why all of these Web2 funds, like their portfolios, etc., like all of them are asking now how they can make this transition, and we want to work with them for that. So I think from an ecosystem perspective, it just sets us up really well. The second also was mentorship, right? So if you look at some of these funds, they've taken companies successfully from let's say multi-billion dollar stage to multi-billion dollar stage. Now we are already a multi-billion dollar company, but we aim to be like, we feel we can go to $100 billion and beyond. And to do that, you need, processes, you need people. Like running a multi-billion dollar company is very different from running a multi-million dollar company. It's like a completely different mindset. So having the right processes, the right people, being set, creating like the kind of internal structure where you continue to be fast and aggressive, but at the same time, the entire organization moves forward as one. These kind of things like are something we are trying to solve, and why we feel if we can get the right guidance and mentorship from all of these funds who have done this successfully for so many different companies, then then we will have access, we will be able to build like the best Web3 organization of the future. So I think this was very important for us. And how we plan to use the funds is that, of course, ecosystem building, seeding all of these different DAOs which we are doing. So we are also building entertainment DAO to help bring NFTs and decentralization to the entertainment industry. We are also building other gaming DAOs. So we're building like many of these different kinds of DAOs, which will sort of which is in a way for us like a decentralized way of building our ecosystem. Our teams are expanding. We are looking to double our headcount. So we plan to use like the funds in this direction to really just help build the company, the ecosystem. So yeah.
Awesome. And also another question then is, in a recent interview, Vitalik Buterin said that maybe they in the Ethereum should focus on creating their own layer 2 for Ethereum rather than basically making Ethereum 2.0. It's not something they will say, yeah, we're doing this right tomorrow, but they were playing with these ideas. So do you believe that it's possible for Ethereum to create something like this in a short period of time? And if so, how would Polygon react to this? Well, basically standing there.
I think it's completely possible for Ethereum to. So if it's possible for Ethereum to do it, of course, the Ethereum core team is extremely talented developers, so of course they can build it. But I think like building the blockchain actually is the easy part. Building all the tooling, the ecosystem, etc., is the difficult part. So that is something which I feel is going to be like the challenge, even for Ethereum, right? So that's why I feel that while Ethereum can do it, I feel that like the best way for Ethereum to do it would be through foundation grants. So if you look at how Ethereum is functions, right? It functions in a very decentralized manner. Like the core Ethereum team works on the blockchain, but everything else, right? Whether it is Etherscan, MetaMask, Infura, like all of this has been built by the community through the application of foundation grants. So it would be great if like Ethereum could create like these foundation grants, to help accelerate the building of these like layer twos, right? So today the way of scaling is using zero knowledge and rollups. I wish we could like get more funding, like, or rather more grants, or Ethereum, if Ethereum could put together grants to take this forward, like grants to help improve ZK technology, grants to help improve rollup technology, more grants for more core network research and mathematics research. I think this is, I feel like a better, more sustainable way than trying to again build another layer two, which if theoretically they would want to do it, they can. But I don't know if that would be the best move. I think, yeah, I think just supporting the ecosystem and putting out grants for research to take the entire ecosystem forward, I feel is maybe the better approach.
All right, thank you. So basically, just stay the core part, and then all the excessive work, basically on layer 2 should be devoted to other blockchain developers.
It should be, yeah, it should be decentralized, and an Ethereum Foundation can roll out grants to take the ecosystem forward, just like how they've done with
Okay,
like so far. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Arjun. From our side, this is actually everything with the questions. Maybe you would like to say something from yourself, or add something, or make an announcement from your side.
Sure, definitely. So I think for us it's been so one thing I must say, that from the time I started way back in 2020, I would have never thought we'd be here today, with some of the world's best funds backing us, having built such a big ecosystem. So first thing I must say, I just really want to thank the community. for their love and support, without which this would never be possible. And, and this is what gives us energy to get up every day in the morning and fight to build, like, the best ecosystem of the future. So thank you so much is first thing I'd like to say. And the second thing, what I'd like to say is that 2022 is going to be a very exciting year. I think a lot of the EVM ZK rollups which I've talked about are going to go live. The test nets are going to go live, and you will start seeing some production level systems possibly by the end of this year. So I think for us, 2022 is going to be a big year in terms of technology, in terms of the ecosystem as well. We've got some really big announcements coming up with many major global players who are now going to be working with us. So stay tuned, and I just look forward to uh, putting those announcements out there, seeing more and more developers and researchers from the Web2 world come into blockchain, start experimenting with Web3. And I really feel that 2022 is going to be that year when you see that mass migration happen from, like, where the best of the best talent in Web2 starts now coming into Web3 and starts building, the blockchain technology of the future. So I think that's, I think there's going to be so many amazing things which are going to happen this year.
Yeah, I also believe this, and we will definitely be waiting for all these announcements. We will be stay tuned. And again, all the links are under this video in order for you to see them in the future. And Arjun, again, thank you so much for taking your time. It was a really, really great pleasure talking to you, and the way you were explaining things in such simple matters, difficult things, is like really awesome. I feel the people who will be watching the videos, they should take a lot of information, a lot of knowledge out of this. So thanks again.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope the video was interesting for you. You've learned something new, and we will see each other in the next videos. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.